Hi, Dr. Martina.
Hello, Dr. Hanari.
Hi, how are you? Maiten, how are you?
Very well,
fine.
thank you.
It is our honor to have you today in this hackathon to present about the human capital for the entrepreneur, startup, as well as middle stage company. Who will start first, Dr. Martina or Maiten? Who will start first?
I think that we are going to start together, but I think that Dr. Martin is going to introduce us and open the
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Martina.
Yeah.
The floor for you. Go ahead.
The floor is mine. That's good to hear. So welcome, everyone. And thank you, a big thank you to Dr. Hanadi for asking us to give a presentation on maybe something that's a little bit different than you normally would see in startup, because we're going to talk about you as a person. My name is Martijn Driessen, but you can call me Marty or Martin, whatever you like. And I'm a scientist and an entrepreneur. And today I want to talk about the entrepreneur, the person behind the business. And I'm in there already as an entrepreneur for 25 years now, doing research, but most of all, doing business, selling software to help people become more entrepreneurial and to gain the success that they actually want. But it's not all about tooling. Tooling is just a means to an end. And that's why together today we are going to give you a presentation together with Maiten Panella. And I would like to ask Maiten to introduce herself and maybe tell a little bit more about coaching. Maiten, please.
Thank you, Dr. Driessen, and thank you, Dr. Hanadi, for inviting us to this really important topic. Coaching, that's a broad spectrum. We will tackle this a little bit later. But shortly, my name is Maiten Panella. I'm a psychologist, a psychotherapist, and also a coach. And I've been working for 30 years, so just a little bit more than Dr. Driessen, but there, almost the same amount of time. And we are passionate about understanding and helping entrepreneurs to become the best version of yourselves. And this presentation that we have created is going to be dedicated particularly to that, to understanding data, to understanding coaching, and how to become a better entrepreneur, mainly an entrepreneur of this era. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur in the 2022? So I hope that you can join us in this path that we are going to walk together today. Thank you.
Thank you all. And what we would like to do as well is understand who the audience is. So we also would like to ask you, you can type in the chat if that's maybe the best thing, but you can also come forward, present yourself. A little bit more about yourself. Are you an entrepreneur, or are you with an organization that is helping entrepreneurs to succeed? Please tell us a little bit more, because then we will be able to address and to align the presentation with who is in the audience. Please.
I think that if you want, you can, as Dr. Martin has said, you can just speak up, or you can let us know in the chat, where are you connecting from? Where are you based at? And this is a good starting point for us to understand. And I like to see some faces or names, because I cannot see the faces, but names that I can recognize. And this is really nice. And
we can do it differently, maybe, because it's a platform, Zoom, and it has some great advantages and some disadvantages. So, who is an entrepreneur? Could we see some hands, please? Could you type in your reaction and raise your hand? Normally, or clap, or give a thumb, or raise hand. You can see it as a reaction. Please, who is an entrepreneur?
Dr. Mashaal. Yes. Hi, Dr. Martina. Dr. Mashaal, it's there, or she's lefting. Dr. Mashaal, it's entrepreneur. Nuha, it should be translators. And it's also entrepreneur, but this is a journalist to covering the event for the social media. Okay. And I think Manal, we're waiting Manal. There are many participants, but I don't know what is happening to joining. There are many registration. Manal, you have the mic. You can speak about yourself, because now we are a small group.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Dr. Mashaal Yagut. I just become a doctorate engineering.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm an entrepreneur. And actually, I was the first to participate with Dr. Hanadi al-Mubaraki in the last, in the last sessions. I have a new project. It's about robots from Japan. And I introduced this robots to Kuwait because they are a rehabilitation robot. It's one invention in the world. It's about rehabilitation. It rehabilitates the people with the disabilities like strokes, paralyzed, and recently is going out to children. And we are seeing, I've been working now in the last 3 months, and we are seeing vast changes in the patients. And this is very amusing, and at the same time is very pleasant for us because we see patients get better and better, not the traditional way of physiotherapy. Yes, That's me. Yeah.
So you produce robot arms, or you help with robot arms? Is that a correct understanding?
It's not arms. It's a lot of robots. There is one whole. It's called lower limb robot. It's called HAL from the company in Japan in Cyberdyne, and it by electrodes. You put it on special part of the body, and then the brain order the body or the muscles to move. So this is a new era of physiotherapy, because if you can make yourself move with your brain, but of course you will not move, because if you are paralyzed, the robot, he will work instead of you, and this will improve the cycle in the body, and the cycle will continue, and this will make the brain the connections of the brain, the nerves, the neural nerves combined again, because of the injury, or yes.
So the nerve will actually take over.
Yes. So
Please,
again,
Maiten.
the brain comes back again, new. And we see enormous, like 82 persons, they come to the clinic where we work with as a joint venture with some clinic to do some trials. And actually we see wonders. They started to move their legs, and we see paralyzed people, they move the legs, because this robot, he's so not clever, so very he can't trace the minimum pulses from the muscles. So he moved against your will. So it's
so
good.
Is it something that you put around your limb? Is it something that actually activates the nerve?
Yes,
okay.
actually.
I understand.
If you see I put the photo, it's on next to if this is the photo. Yes, you can see the man.
Please share the screen. Share the screen. It's because this is great example.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. But the problem is I'm on the telephone. How I cannot share the screen.
That's all right.
Leave it.
That's all right.
We understand.
Okay.
But this is a great example that we will take into the presentation where possible, of course. So thank you very much for stepping up.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So we understand a little bit. So let's, if you are okay with that, Maiten, that we address our presentation a little bit more towards the entrepreneurs that are in place. And of course, the scientists or those who are more interested in the topic, more the broad perspective of entrepreneurship and especially the entrepreneurial skills and coaching of entrepreneurs and gaining more entrepreneurial skills towards success, I think they will for sure get anything. And there will also be some room for questions, but let's start with my presentation first. And then we go on to the presentation of Maiten. Okay.
Excuse me, Dr. Martina. You will sharing the screen, right?
I would like to share the screen, but I'm not able yet. I see.
Now you don't have ability?
Still not the ability to no. If you can make me presenter.
Yes. Excuse me, the support. Can you help the speaker?
قفل السبيكر، قفل الصوت. من المهم يعني قلت له الجزء اللي عليه المصنع قال لك ايه؟
In the meantime, one of the really interesting things that so generously Michelle, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, probably, I'm so sorry, shared with us is fantastic and fascinating, mainly because it tackles the aspects of the brains, the neuroplasticity, and the ability to evolve. And this is something that we work on. I mean, the skills that can develop. So always we have something at the base and we can do something with that. It's not that we have to remain there with the status quo. We can improve, we can change, we can teach our brain how to create new behaviors, new movements, new compounds. So it's a fascinating era we are starting right now, I think.
It is absolutely. It's a good point. It is also something maybe I'm not sure if people know, and I see I have the floor so I can take. There is something like we call a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And if you talk about entrepreneurs, this is commonly something that people actually tell, like, okay, you're born the way you are, and yeah, you are entrepreneurial or you're not. Question is that so, and what can you do about it? But let me start the presentation and talk about that a little bit more. I think when I do this. Yes. So can you see my screen? Do you see
clear.
Human capital? Yes?
Yes.
Big thumb, thank you. Perfect.
I think.
So we talk about human capital actually as a broad perspective, as a broad object or subject actually. And what we want to do actually is pinpoint it and maybe try to even give you some concrete tips, especially for the entrepreneurs. But we will start a little bit more on what is actually entrepreneurship, what is the entrepreneurial competence, and then we will switch to coaching. But let's have a first understanding of what the problem is, because there is a problem, and it has been there for years, actually. The problem is that there are high failure rates for startups worldwide. So everywhere you see great initiatives, like we show with Michelle. I'm sorry if I pronounced you wrongly, but great, interesting idea, and to have a business about it, but it's still not that easy to keep the business running. And what we see is that when we talk about startups, we don't only mean the technical ones who have a couple of founders that have a great new invention, or a great new software, or a great new technology driven product. It's far broader than that. So also those who just start to be self-employed, to hire themselves because they to let people hire them because they have certain knowledge, or you see the barber at the street in where you live. So all kinds of people that actually start a business. So startups in a much broader sense. I'm sorry. When we look at the survival rates, and this is a graph, and I will explain it. If you look at the survival rates of businesses in the USA is mostly seen as a pretty entrepreneurial country. Yet, even though, and what we see here is all the years, starting from 1949 up to 2015 and even beyond that, but it's not about the latest years. It's more about a trend. And when you look at the number 5 at the bottom, and you go up, you see it's about 50%. So these years, they have been following those startups, and every year there is a new group of people that start a business. But all in all, within 5 years, on average, 50% stop their business or even go bankrupt. So 1 in 2. So let's say you have a friend who also started the business. So either you or the friend will not be there around anymore, will not have that business. And that is actually the start of my PhD, where I was curious about what is the reason, how can it be? Because for sure we would like to see that higher, but maybe it's only in the USA, whereas it's the most entrepreneurial country. So maybe people think, oh, it's quite easy to start a business, and people fail. If you look at Europe, it's a different image, but it's the same. So I would like you to look at the 5 years. So that's the dark blue bar. And here you see all the countries within the European Union. And if you look at it, it's maybe a little bit difficult, but if you look, it's more or less 50% in 5 years. Some a little bit more, like Luxembourg, the Netherlands around 50, and some a little bit lower, like Slovenia. But all in all, on average, more or less 50%. So also here in Europe, as well as the United States, 1 in 2 people stop their business, won't be able to continue. Unfortunately, we don't have data for Asia or Africa. It's scattered. It's not a clear view that we have on how that well, but the chances are that it's not going to be better, and maybe even less. So that is actually the most important problem. What makes people or what makes businesses fail? And for me, it was mainly about the person, because I was wondering, not so much the business model or the business idea. I just wanted to know, what about the person behind the business? Is there any research done? And we're talking about 1995, where I started my first research, for the study. And here we have what I call an alternative model of entrepreneurial success. It's a little bit difficult, but I will explain. At the top left, we have knowledge and skills. And that's also called human capital. So those are the things like, okay, how to create a robot, how to make sure it's becoming a product. What is about the skills you need to create something that you can put on bodies to actually ensure that the nerves are being regenerated. There's more recognition of pulses, which are very low. That's all knowledge. And I'm sure you're not the only one. There's more around your business, like we just saw. And of course, there's also the ability. But there's actually more to it, because when we talk about business, when we talk about entrepreneurship, what is the one thing that actually everyone talks about? That is goals and strategies, and the environment, of course. How well or how easy is it to start your own business? And it's easy, of course, because that's the business model. Who are your clients? Who are your the people that you can work with, who can help you build or create a business around what you have? But actually, all is coming from the entrepreneur. And they are broad personality traits, which is called the Big Five. Maybe you heard of it. So this is the general personality, like extroversion. Are you introvert, extrovert? Maybe you heard about it. But are you emotional stable? Are you open to new encounters, new opportunities? Are you easygoing with other people and consciousness? Those have, it's more the broad personality. It's more the general. But if you talk about entrepreneurs, there's actually a more specific trait, like the need for achievement, the real will to go and even go the extra mile, to take the risk, to take the plunge into something you don't know yet, to be innovative, like Marshall actually talks about some great product that actually helps people regenerate and reactivate the nerves to walk again. So those are the more specific ones, and there was not a lot of research into it. So that's where I started. And the problem is where most people actually, when you talk about the entrepreneurial traits, there is a relation with business success, but it actually goes through the goals and strategies. So the problem is when we talk about a lot of startups that fail, there are business advisors, but what the problem is with business advice and consultancy, mentors, consultants, they focus on the business model, assuming the one who has the idea, who started the business, is entrepreneurial. The question is that so? The question is, can you evolve? Can you develop entrepreneurship? Can you develop entrepreneurial traits? Yes or no? So actually, there is nothing, or at least when I started, there was nothing there, anything that could help analyze, that could help make visible what the entrepreneurial traits are of a specific. So this is actually what we call the human capital. That's in the normal literature. What you see is the skills and knowledge in your business, not so much about the entrepreneur himself or herself. What we would like to propose is actually entrepreneurial traits is also part of the human capital and should be at least also taken into consideration when guiding, when consulting businesses to become more entrepreneurial. Because as we saw, there's still a problem that not a lot of businesses make it. So for sure, if we would know how to increase those successes, more people will have a job, more people will have success, and it will ultimately also increase and develop the economy in a country. So talking about entrepreneurial ecosystems, but we will come to that later. So if you look at the entrepreneur, it's actually that it's important to understand that it is the behavior behind the goals and strategies. Of course, they are very important, considering the environment you're in, considering the business model you have, but focusing on the entrepreneurial traits and how to do that, that's what we're going to talk together with Maiten, who will also talk more about the coaching of those traits. But let's see what we have as researchers, what we have in place, how well we can develop that. What I would like you to do is, you see this person, this is an image by Peter Verstraeten, and he's just coming from the bank. And what I would like you to do, and if you want, please share your ideas in the chat. The question is, how entrepreneurial is this person? How entrepreneurial do you think this man is? Do you think he's from a scale from 0 to 100? How entrepreneurial do you think the person is. And I don't have access to the chat, but maybe Dr. Hanadi, you can help. Just fill in. There's no good answers, but I'm very curious. From 0 to 100, how entrepreneurial do you think this man walking with a woman, how entrepreneurial do you think he is? Maiten, maybe you can tell if there's anything in the chat, because I don't have any knowledge. I don't see anything in the chat.
Don't you worry, I keep an eye on that. So you go ahead.
Great. So any ideas? What do you think, Maiten? Maybe you start with something.
I was waiting for the rest, but if not, usually because of our bias, many of us will say that this is not the entrepreneurial type, mainly because through the social media and the TV and the advertisements and the magazines, the entrepreneurial type is another one, right, Dr. Martin?
Absolutely. And this is actually still, if you have a number in your head and you don't want to share, that's perfectly fine, of course, only if you want to share. But that is the problem. When we talk about entrepreneurs, especially when we talk about people who have a business idea or who went into business because they thought they are the entrepreneur, doesn't mean they are. It doesn't mean that if you have a business idea, if you start a business, you are entrepreneurial. Yet that's what we assume. And if you look at this person, he doesn't look happy, but he's coming from the bank and maybe he heard a no. We don't know what he's thinking. We don't know what type he is, even though we don't know even if it is the man, because it could also be the woman. And the man is actually not that entrepreneurial and thinking like, I don't think it will work, but it could be that she is the entrepreneur and actually she sees it and she has a yes from the bank, but he's still like, okay, but now we're lending money. Is that a smart thing to do? We don't know. And that's exactly what I would like to pin out here. And this is something of a calendar, and what we see here, just a sec. This is actually what we assume she is saying to him. Of course, you're not enterprising. I know that, you know that, but they don't know that, because how does the bank know how entrepreneurial you are? You have a business plan. You have maybe some financials. There's probably coming out that it will be successful in the 5 years, whereas the bank knows it doesn't work that way, because 50% or even more won't make it to 5 years. So according to the statistics, they know this is not going to work, but still we don't know. It could be he's very, very, very creative. He's a genius, but that's all he knows. And that's why she comes in, because she is more than she makes it happen. She organizes all around him. So we would have a perfect match, a perfect team. But if you look at him, you don't think he should be, or he could be the entrepreneur. So don't be mistaken. Yet the bank is not that wrong, because there's another problem as well. If we talk about entrepreneurs, the problem is that, and that's what we can measure, is how well do people know themselves. If you talk about from 0 to 100, and that's what I ask you to do, if you look at the person from 0 to 100, how entrepreneur do you think? When we ask people how entrepreneur do you think from 0 to 100, they say 70 or 67.2. Whereas the real entrepreneur index, so put it into a measure from 0 to 100, it's only 49.7. So entrepreneurs think they are entrepreneurial, on average 67.2, but in reality, it's only 49.7. So there is a gap. They think they are entrepreneurial, but they're not that entrepreneurial. So that means that they also have weak points, maybe even more weak points than strong points. Question is, can you do something about it? And what can we do about it? That we will talk about. So if you talk about entrepreneurship, and that's what we have done, that is that we measure, as we have seen in the image with the success and the alternative model of success, these are the most important entrepreneurial traits and skills that you need to have that entrepreneurial mindset to have a successful business. And what you see here is actually two images. One is more like a spider chart, the other is more like a donut. And the spider chart is more like the power of the mindset. So how entrepreneur are you? And where are the weaknesses? As you can see here, for need for autonomy, maybe social orientation, self-belief, even risk-taking, those are weak points because you need them. But in this case, this person is just a demo, just an example. This is a person who doesn't have all, but is good in planning, has a certain need of power that you also need. And I'm not going into detail. Maybe we have some time later on. So that is one image that actually immediately tells you how well or where are the weak points and where are the strong points, or maybe even two strong points, because that's also possible. And up to now, more than 1 million people have done the e-scan. So we know it is accurate and it does what it does. It gives insight into how entrepreneurial are you. But on the other hand, there's also a type of mindset. And we just saw the man that wasn't looking all too happy, to say the least, maybe not so entrepreneurial, but yet we don't know. He could be a pioneer. So he's more like a creative person thinking of ideas. And in this case, we see the type of mindset. So here you see it is a combination of pioneer and manager, which is not happening that often, but still it could be. So it immediately tells, as a coach and Maiten as well, it immediately tells us a lot of things that actually could be an advantage as well as a disadvantage. It could also be pitfalls, but also blind spots, because entrepreneurs think they are the entrepreneur, especially for their idea. They are entrepreneurial, but with this tool, you more understand, okay, maybe there are some strong points, but there are certain weak points. Question is, what can you do about it? So if we talk about eScan, it is actually to understand what it is, and this is the product that we deliver, and that has extensive research behind it. It's a data-driven online scan in which you can compare yourself with other entrepreneurs. So in the sector that you want to start your business, and you see it graphically and textually. We just saw it graphically, but there's also a textual. There's a report, and that's actually telling more about it, as well as. Okay, what type of entrepreneur are you? And that's all taking place on the e-platform, because the e-platform is actually there to make sure that you, together with a coach, you can develop a strategy that matches your profile as well as the phase that you're in. If you're a starting entrepreneur, it's different when you are an established entrepreneur. And we will talk about more about that when we hear the presentation of Maiten. So it is all especially designed for creating and developing entrepreneurship. If you have weak points, that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's the strategy that you think about. It is how you deal with it, how you complement them. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship. So we have also, when you are not on your own, self-employed, but you have a couple of founders or co-founders or other that work in your company and have shares, we can do the team analysis and to really understand how well does this team can perform, or where are the blind spots. But enough about that. Let's have a look at how that looks. So this is what we call, it's a responsive design, it's reliable, and there's a measure to it. So you can understand what it is. And maybe we have some time at the end to go through it. But first, let's have a look a little bit more like, okay, are you born an entrepreneur, or can you develop it? That is one of the most important questions I would like to answer with you today. And with Maiten, we will see what we can do about it. So the question is, entrepreneurship, is it nurture or nature? Maybe you have heard of it. And actually, it is much more nurture than it is nature. They have done a research with adoptive parents and biological parents. And what we see is those children of adoptive parents are about twice as large, have a twice as large effect than those who have biological parents who are entrepreneurs. So we know it's much more about nature. It's much more about upbringing. But the question still is, what do we need to do? How do we need to do it? So if we talk about entrepreneurs, then why should we start with the entrepreneur or entrepreneurs first if you're not alone? I'm not sure if Michelle is on her own. I don't think so. I guess she has more co-founders, but maybe she can tell us a little bit more about that later. The question is, why start with the entrepreneur first? Because what happens if you have an idea and you're going to start your business, you're immediately going to think about pricing, strategy, marketing, personnel, finance, of course. So you're more driven into what we call the hard side of business. Whereas this is more the soft side, and it doesn't mean that it is soft, because it can be very, very hard. If you have certain weak points and you don't acknowledge them, for sure, you will have trouble how to deal with them in a way. So that's why, because once you are talking about pricing, once you talk about business, you talk about strategy, you talk about how well the business goes, or there is something like COVID, for sure, you're more thinking how I can survive this pandemic rather than what about me, or where do I leave it? And maybe you're not the entrepreneur anymore for the business you're in. That is possible. But of course, no person will think that, because if you look at it, actually, entrepreneurship is a balancing act from the inside as well as from the outside. So it is a balance. Some people think you need to have a lot of skills, but it doesn't always be that way, because you can be both. You either the one or you're the other. So you have weak points. The question is how to deal with it. So that is the balancing act. And if you focus too much on the finance, you may forget about the marketing. If you focus too much on the marketing, you may forget about the finance. That's also with you as a personality. If you focus too much on your strength, being maybe outgoing, social orientated, you go outside, but you forget actually to make sure that everything is in place and that everyone knows what to do. So you leave holes in your business. And that's what we talk about when we talk about what we call the type of entrepreneurs, the thinking styles, so to speak. What you see here is a graphic of the brain. We have, as you look at it on the right side, those are more the right brain, and on the left side, the left brain, and we have a top and a bottom. I won't go into detail because that would take too much. I just want to make sure that there are 4 types as we have discovered. So one is the pioneer, which is the one who is constantly thinking of ideas. This is what we normally would suggest or would seem to believe that is the entrepreneur, but that's not the case. We see all kinds of entrepreneurs, and those are more the roles that you have in your business. Of course, when you start a business, it starts with an idea, whether it's an existing idea or completely new, something that's not there. Like the robots that come from Japan, still, what can you do, or what can you add to it to make it a business? But once you have an idea, you need to more or less sell it. That's what we call the salesperson. And they have a different brain, different activity in the brain, but we all have the same brain in that case. But on the other hand, once you have figured it out, you have an idea, you know how to sell it, or you know who to sell it, you know how to bring it across. It has to be realized. You have to make it happen, so to speak. And that's where we have the manager, of course, which is a different thinking styles from the pioneer, logically. But you need it in your business as well. The question is, how well do you have that in your mindset? And last but not least, and that's what we call more the specialists, are those who actually know and understand the business, the product, what you need to deliver, not organize it, but also, what needs to be. And those, of course, are mostly the self-employed people that actually know a certain skill and let them, some others hire them to solve the problems that they have. So those are the 4 thinking styles. There's much more to it. I'm not going to get into detail. We can do it another time, or you're interested. Let's have a look how that actually affects the growth in the business. So start from some start to fail or start to fall, whatever you would like to. Because as I said at the beginning, in the early phase, there is an idea, there's chaos, but you see a gap in the market. You see something that you can make out of it. And that's, of course, the role of the pioneer. Creative, autonomous, knows how to think of ideas and come with that. But the problem with the pioneer mostly is they lack planning, they lack financial awareness, and that's where it goes wrong. So there are advantages as well as disadvantages. And once the idea is created, there is a product, there's maybe a minimum viable product, something that you can start to sell, then the next phase actually is more like, okay, there are people that like your product or like your approach or like the skills or expertise that you have, opposed to someone else, your competitor. And that's where you actually have a fit with the market. There are people that say, hey, you have something that actually is interesting, which I would like. I know there's a competitor or there are substitutes, but this is the way you do it and I would like it. So that's what we call it, the harmony. And that's the salesperson. Social orientation is a strong point because he knows how to relate to others. But there is a problem with endurance and autonomy. They want to, it has to be quick, it has to be nice, but if others don't like it or another great idea comes, they go on and off they are. So once you have the market in place, there is a group of people, customers that actually like your product or like your expertise. You have to organize it. So you become more of a manager, which is, of course, happy with when things are orderly. Planning, dominance, those are great skills of the manager, but creativity is something they lack, which, of course, the pioneer has. But with any business that makes decisions, that things of strategy or certain types of prices or where you are located or the people you work with, things start to differ because customer needs change. And then, of course, you need what we call the specialists, because they like the conflict. There is a problem and they want to solve it. They want to understand what is the problem. And that's why they have a different way of thinking. It's a different mindset than the pioneer. It looks like we talk about 4 different people. That's not the case. This could be one person that has all the thinking styles. The question is, how are they related? What is their distribution? And that's where you see that happens in the business every time, again and again and again. For certain products in certain phases, for the company in certain phases. This is the type of person you bring into, as well as the co-founders. So how well do they match? I see that I have not that a lot of time. I would like to do a team challenge, but I think that is not a smart thing to do on Zoom. Involve a lot of other issues that we or other things that we need to accomplish. So I will skip this one. Let me just have a look. What I can do is I tell you a little bit more about two people. What you see here, and I will keep it briefly. There are 2 people. Let me go to this one. That's better. Yes. So here we see the e-scan that people took, and this is a business, a company of 2 people, 2 founders, Anthony and Anil. Those are not their real names, so don't worry. And they have a business in combining or matching photographers, professional and amateurs, with creating images that you can put in your home, and they want to do it globally. And where you can see here is that the thinking styles actually, where Anthony has quite some strong thinking styles like risk-taking, flexibility, creativity, need for achievement, over the blue line, which is the branch that they are in. Whereas Anil has a little bit less, and even some weak points, as you can see here. When you look at the thinking styles, Anil's much more the manager, whereas Anthony is much more the pioneer salesperson. So you can imagine that the question is, how well are they matching? Can they have a successful business, or are there blind spots? Without going into detail, this is a team analysis. You can immediately see that we can spot or actually make sure what the problem areas are where they don't see it themselves. Because they were looking for someone who is actually their friend, or that they work well together, but that doesn't mean that they could have a business together. And the problem here is especially because they let me show you this one. This is the feedback actually, and I hope this you can still follow this, but this is still the profile of Anthony, and this is the profile of Anil. And the green line now is how Anil scored Anthony, and the green line here is how Anthony scored Anil. But the beauty is actually where I can show you, I can prove that they are looking for the same person they are. So this is the feedback of Anil on the profile of Anthony. So he thinks, Anil, that he's the pioneer manager, that he's a large portion of manager, which he is himself. Whereas Anthony actually thinks that Anil is much more the pioneer salesperson, which he is not, because he's the manager. So here you see pioneer salesman, and that's exactly who he is, he himself. So what they search for is what they also, and that's the filter that we saw. What kind of entrepreneur is he? Is he entrepreneurial, the man and the beginning? How do we know? It's what we think others are. So those filters that they see, they think they see what they want to see, but it's not the case. So in this case, these two entrepreneurs did not match. Although they are both entrepreneurial, there was a problem and they did not see it. So this was a tool to help them understand, okay, maybe I'm looking at it in a wrong way and I need to look at it in a different way. And I need to understand that my partner, a friend, is actually not the right partner for me. So with that as an example, what is the solution to the problem? How can we solve the high failure rates for startups worldwide? So what it is about is, and we will talk about more of that in detail together with Maiten, online and offline entrepreneur coaching. And it prospers entrepreneur development. So you take the scan, but as the scan is like, oh, that's easy. You do it in 10, 15 minutes, some take 20, but around 50 minutes on average. And that's it. You think, oh, that's easy. But then there it starts, because what are you going to do about it? Because most people think like, oh, it's just a test. You do the test, you score high or not, and that's it. But then it starts, and there is so much more to it that you actually can understand how well are you working together? How well do you match with other people? How well do you match the business that you're in, the phase that you're in? So there's a whole world behind it that you can do. And I'm not going to talk that in detail now. I want to come to an end and to let you understand how well it is possible to develop entrepreneurship. This is just an example. I don't want to explain so you don't have to understand, but the one thing that we want to show here is that you see 3 lines. So one is more like the online, where you can have certain steps to understand more about yourself and what you need to do in your business with your profile, together with the coaching sessions, which are of course offline or sometimes online. There depends. And in the green line, you see all the kinds of products and services that we offer to help promote, to help prosper, to help succeed the business you want, whether you want a big business or you just want to be self-employed. That's for us not important. We have done some research, and I would like to go into that now. And then I'm going to end the presentation. What you see here is several programs that we run together with the government in the Netherlands, with the Chambers of Commerce. And this is an impact of 1-year program from the government where there are pre and post measurement with the eScan. So the eScan was not only the tool for coaches that we trained to help them become more entrepreneurial, to help them design a strategy around them that actually complements their profile. On the one hand, as a diagnose tool. Other hand is, can we also do a pre and post measurement? Because at the beginning, the blue line, that's how they scored on average, around 3,000 people and even more. But at that time, this is what we had. So several projects, several people together, combined average of 2,800 people. And the orange line is about 1 year later, after the coaching, where they could select their own coach, and they had to do a test at the beginning, especially also for diagnose, but also at the end, how well did they grow? And here you see that actually for all points there was a growth, and especially a significant one for those with self-belief and creativity. So actually their neurons, their nerves, their minds were developed from a fixed growth mindset to a growth mindset, to a flexible mindset. And what we have done also is to look back, because this is after a year. The question is, what about 5 years? Because we knew that within 5 years, in Europe at least, 49%, 50%, more or less, around that number, fails. So this is actually the situation that we were dealing with for many years, for decades. You saw it in the United States, we see it in Europe, and actually there are no real figures, no government figures, but we know that in Asia and Africa, it's no better. It's not better that in that case. But with this program, this growth program, we measured it 5 years back to see who is still in business. Not so much they have grown to a unicorn or to a very large company with lots of revenue and people working there. No, we just wanted to know, are you still in business? And we presume then, of course, that they are successful. So instead of 50%, now we see 89% still in business. So only 11%, not 50, but 11% is still in business. Because we use tools, but more importantly, we use coaching. Coaching based on tools to help people to focus on the entrepreneur behind the business. Of course, also on the business, the strategy, the finance, that's also in place, necessary, needed, but also focus on the person behind the business, to have someone that you actually really can talk about the business without being dependent on the results of the business. And that's where the coach comes in. So if you ask me, why should you start with the entrepreneurs? First, a couple of things. Focus on the development of the entrepreneur because it does make a difference. At least a difference to the one who's taking the scan, who's looking actually, who's able and willing to look at themselves, because that's one thing. And then do something with your profile. Do understand where your weaknesses are. It's not a problem. I have my weaknesses too. I'm not that entrepreneurial, but I know how to deal with them. I know how to make a strategy that works for me, that helps me, and makes me successful in over 25 years now. Use a pre and post. That's specifically for also showing the impact, but also for those who are entrepreneur, because you see, you have grown. You have actual proof. Hey, I've grown, and it's always nice to see, of course. Coaches are the spies in the entrepreneur network because they know a lot of people. They know a lot what needs to be done, what you can do, but more importantly, they are independent because they are not in there because they have shares in your business and things like that, which is different from investors or mentors. So the coaches are independent. They must be independent. Should have no interest or any shares in the business. And therefore, you can create a culture of learning or taking responsibility. And that's what's going on, because people sometimes think, yeah, I'm not an entrepreneur, or yeah, I can be that successful entrepreneur because, yeah, I'm not the Bill Gates or I'm not the Steve Jobs. That's not what we want to make sure. That's not what we want to, the message that we want to bring across. And also for banks, where we started with the sad looking guy, try to look at entrepreneur talent for financing rather than looking at the business or the business model or how well you have experience and things like that. So if you have a team, if you have looking for a co-founder, please look for diverse talent and knowledge, because that will help in a much greater detail than to look for the same, as we saw with the two entrepreneurs that we talked about. So this is where I would like to conclude my presentation, and I think that we may have some time for some questions if they are there. Let me give back the screen. I see a question, I think. Or is it still the raising hand? Michelle, please take the floor.
Yes, I just want, thank you. It was very interesting. Really, we took a couple of copies for the presentation, could help us. Yes, but you mean here that the coach should be away out from the entrepreneur, social or emotional or financial away, but he lead him, he give him a good lead towards the success. That is correct, but where can we find those kind of people? I mean, I'm now aiming only on my own skills without also Dr. Hanadi. She gave me a big, support in where to go, how to go, but still in Arabic culture, still we have a little bit of default in entrepreneur, except for like Dr. Hanadi or maybe in other countries. How can we find those people, sir?
So you're looking for a co-founder, right?
Yeah, helper.
A co-founder that actually, and besides, of course, and I'm not sure what your role in the business is, what kind of a co-founder is, should he or she have knowledge about marketing, strategy? Do you know something about that?
I know about this because I took this in my MBA, so I'm aware. Otherwise, I would not have survived till now. I started this, I took the brand name, and I started everything. I'm doing my own marketing. A little bit soon, I'll be going to the media like TV and so and so. I'm going slowly, not quickly, but it's so
what
good.
Do you look for what do you look for in a co-founder? Apart from where you can find them, but where do you look for? What do you look for in a founder? What does he or she need?
Expanding, and yes, I need to have my own local ground in physiotherapy. I'm not a physiotherapist, so we need to have a big, like in Japan, they have a big studio for HAL, and everybody can come to us, not to reckon on or recommend on hospitals, clinics, and like this. Individual and what do you call independent from all the other people. That's what we need, actually.
I understand. Yes. So are you looking then for a distributor or something that can help with sales?
I am a distributor. I am doing my sales. I'm just need to extend in the Gulf area, because this will need more financial.
So you're looking for someone who can help evolve and expand it in the location where you are now, in the Gulf, right?
Yes, in the Gulf. Yeah, correct. And Middle East too. There is none. There's none.
Exactly.
Middle East too.
So what you're looking for is actually, and that's what I would give as advice, to talk to people like Hanadi, because they are from the Gulf. I'm not. I'm from Europe, so that's different. But before you are looking, you should understand two things. What type of person is it? What type of, is it the pioneer, salesperson, manager, things like that? And what person would complement you in terms of the traits, the power of the mindset? As like the image you see here. So that's one thing. You should understand and know, okay, what are you looking for? Who would complement you? That's one thing. And the other is, okay, what type of knowledge does he or she need to have? Because you could also work together with a distributor for other things that are related to your business. So you're not going to look for a co-founder, but you're going to work together with those who have or could help distribute your product. You could also look for a co-founder who has maybe sales and the business development skills. because that's probably what you're looking for. Not so much managerial, not so much financial or strategy. So you're actually looking for someone is more out, extroverted, is more outgoing, and knows a market that you are in. Once you have that profile, it's easier to look for, and you will find them, because there's no database. Although we have a lot of people in our database, it still doesn't say, or it's not easy to say, oh, that's the one for you, because it's not only about the person we know, the traits, but it's also about the knowledge or the background that people have. But I'm sure if you know exactly what you're looking for, type of person and the type of knowledge that someone need to have, whether it's a young person, an older person, how much experience, what kind of background, the better you know that, the easier it is to find someone. And for sure you will find him or her, no doubt about it, or that organization that can help you. That's the best advice I can give you from this point on.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other questions? I see there's also a chat. Let me check if I can open it. Yes. Okay. He looks not at all. No, that's true. That's about the person, of course. And love this matrix. So any other questions? Maybe on the research, maybe on the model, maybe some totally different question about entrepreneurship or some advice that you would like. But if not there, it's also possible at the end of the presentation of Maiten as well. So if there are no other questions at this point, so I will thank you all for your attention, and I hope it was clear, and where entrepreneur coaching comes in, and that's where I would like to give the floor to Maiten. Maiten, if you please, I will check the chat and things like that, so I will take that responsibility now, but the floor is yours, and I'm very, very curious to hear about your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.